Hi, welcome to Edward Box Guitar Tuition. So my classic album inspection today is the Scorpions' Love at First Sting, released 40 years ago today, I think. It just says March 1984 on Wikipedia. I checked its UK chart placing was the 24th of March 1984, which is a Saturday, so I'm guessing it was released on a Monday, which is the 19th. So hence, that's why I've done this today. So this is their 9th studio album. It's 40 minutes and 55 seconds long. This is interesting. This is one of the first rock albums recorded digitally on Sony Digital 32 track, I believe. And you actually hear that in the sound. It has got a kind of brightness about it, particularly on the guitars. So this is the Scorpions' most commercially successful album. It went triple platinum in the States by 1995. It sold over 6 million copies worldwide. And it has Rock You Like a Hurricane, which is probably the Scorpions' most well-known song, along with Still Loving You, also Big City Nights, of live favourites like Coming Home and Bad Boys Running Wild. My sort of initial feeling about this album, it used to be one of my favourite Scorpions albums. I would have said it was a classic, 10, 15 years ago. I think listening now, I think like kind of a similar album at the same time, Judas Priest Defenders of the Faith, it marks the end of a classic era of the Scorpions. It has classic tracks. I don't think the album's as good as Blackout. I prefer Animal Magnetism these days. It's not as good as Love Drive, but it has classic tracks. So let's get into it. Actually, it was recorded. Initial sessions took place in Polish Studios, ABBA Studios, in summer of '83. It's quite a long recording period. For some reason, Jimmy Bain and Bobby Rondelli were employed to kind of, on the initial sessions, I don't know what happened between Dieter Dierks and Herman Railbar, Francis Buchholz, why he didn't want them, or maybe Rudy didn't, I don't know. Obviously the same thing kind of happened. They started using a drum machine a lot on Savage Amusement. So I'm not sure why that is. So the album opens off, side one opens with Bad Boys Running Wild. This is one of my favourite Scorpion tracks of all time. It's got a great riff. It's got a great chorus. The guitar solo is fantastic on this. On this album, Matthias Jabs, unleashes more of his patented pinch harmonics and so on. I think his solos on this album are some of his best, although I think there's more throughout Blackout to a certain extent. But anyway, this track's 3 minutes 54. It's got lyrics by Klaus Meine, Herman Rarebell. By this period, the Scorpions are fully embracing the sort of party metal style lyrics. The lyrics are nothing like the sort of introspective subjects you get on albums like In Trance or Virgin Killer. And that is a criticism for a lot of people, I think, is that the Scorpions, from Love Drive onwards, they dumbed down, as a lot of bands do to a certain extent. Judas Priest, and so on. Bands become more AC/DC, more Kiss in their simple arrangements. But this is a way to have commercial success, and I also think you've got those more progressive Scorpions albums and Priest albums. You've been able to explore those. It was time for something different. Anyway, Bad Boys Running Wild, great opening track. They often used to open with this live, brilliant. Then it goes to Rock You Like a Hurricane. Again, this is a track, I don't really tire of hearing it. It's a great metal anthem, hard rock anthem. It shows Rudolf Schenker's gifts of a songwriter. It's just got such a simple riff. As the basis for the song, it just shows you can just take a simple idea and build an anthem out of it. You don't need to have complexity. I think the other thing you notice on the album, that even though it's recorded digitally and there's a move throughout the 80s where the bass on albums starts to go down, I think 1984 is the kind of last year where you're still hearing some bass in the mix. And this, you can hear Francis Buchholz's bass pumping through this album. It benefits from that, especially with the brightness on the guitars. Probably maybe Matthias Jabs' greatest ever guitar solo on this. Either this or Bad Boys Running Wild for me. Amazing solo. He does the Van Halen thing, the little, what a trill with a slide with the pick. But then he goes his own way, it's very quirky. It's got lots of high pinch harmonics, It's a proper mouth opener. Next track is I'm Leaving You. This is a kind of forgotten track on the album. It's repetitive. I really like it. I would understand if other people didn't. It's 4 minutes 16. It only really has, it just repeats I'm Leaving You. Then it's kind of got a chorus. Great guitar work from the farce again. Can't really say why I like it. I just always connected with me. Next track is Coming Home. This was another live staple I often opened with. Really good. They would actually not do the clean bit and come straight out often. Great guitar work on this from the farce. Amazing. Fills, amazing. Middle solo, amazing. End solo. So off the bat, the album opens really strongly to me. Where it comes unglued is at track 5, The Same Thrill. So this is like the frantic sort of party song the Scorpions started to do at this position on albums. It started with side 2 with Can't Get Enough on Love Drive, which I think is a great track. Then it was reborn on the track Now off the Blackout album, which I like, but it's not the best track. The Same Thrill's kind of more the same. What salvages this track for me is Mufasa does some great guitar work. He goes a bit bonkers with some crazy whammies. But it's not a track that I'm drawn to. Side 2 opens with Big City Nights. So this is a really catchy track again, a really simple riff from Rudolph. Actually, but he's almost using a rock and roll status quo little lick there. Rudy does the solo on this. Really catchy, really good bottom end on this. I think one of the things of the album is there's more backing vocals on this album. There's more layered vocal harmonies. There's clearly an attempt to put more hooks into it, to put more pop elements. And this, this is in the era after, Def Leppard have had a huge hit with Pyromania, and that's really shows the way. And going back to Back in Black, simplifying song, getting polished production, getting hooks in there, that becomes the dominant thing for hard rock and pop, what becomes pop metal bands, hair metal bands, from this era through to the end of the 80s. 1983 is the beginning of the storm with Metal Health by Quiet Riot and Shout the Devil by Motley Crue having big success. Obviously Metal Health by Quiet Riot being the first heavy metal album in inverted commas to reach number 1 on the Billboard charts. And then, as this era goes on, the hair will get bigger, there'll be more emphasis on videos. But anyway, Big City Nights, really good anthem, really catchy track. When I was listening to it before, I was thinking, yeah, this is a cracking song. Then the album takes a bit of dip, probably with the second weakest track or weakest track, As Soon as the Good Times Roll. Lovely guitar sound at the start of this. Again, taking a sort of reggae vibe, a bit not as reggae-ish as Is There Anybody There. It's a nice track, it's well crafted. I'm just not drawn to it. It's 5 minutes and 1 second. I think it's a little too long, it's got a long fade out. Not really much more to say than that. It's a well crafted track, it's just not quite there for me really. Then you've got Crossfire. Now this is an interesting track. This is an anti-war song. It has an interesting military feel, an interesting kind of open string guitar part from Matthias. Quite atmospheric verses. A good multi-layered sort of harmony on the choruses. I like the track again. It's not one of my favourites. If you think about the Blackout album, side 2 opens with Dynamite, then it goes into Arizona, which is a cool track. Then you got China White, Smoke Is Going Down. It's not dipping, you've got like good deep cuts. Animal Magnetism, you've got The Zoo, you've got Falling in Love on side 2? I'm trying to remember now. I think it is, and then the title track's interesting, there's a bit more meat there, same with Love Drive, you could go back through, so I kind of feel it is dipping. And then of course the album finishes with an all-time Scorpions classic, Still Loving You. This is it's their most successful power ballad, and it takes the ideas from Born to Touch Your Feelings, Holiday, When the Smoke Is Going Down, and then kind of distills them into this epic. You know, it's got that great arpeggio guitar part, boo doo 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 by Rudolph, which he's very good at with that sort of classical flavour, slightly kind of little gothic sort of, boo doo 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 doo, you know, a little bit chromatic, a little bit Eastern European, epic chorus, lovely guitar by Matthias, nice break by Rudy. In actual fact, I think Rudolph does more solos on this album than he does any other, which I like Rudy's breaks on this. It would have been nice to hear Matthias cut loose more. You know, you don't get the great Matthias solos that you do on side one. He totally brings it and really earns his stripes as the German Van Halen and one of the top guitarists of his era for me for lead guitar. Side two, you know, he's got his lovely intro on Still Loving You, a little bit of Crossfire, but not as much. But yes, classic track. Actually, John Lydon of the Sex Pistols, Johnny Rotten, actually really loves this track. His wife's German. I saw something program on him once, and he picked this song, which is quite interesting. Probably being contrarian, he'll probably think that's really punk in a weird way. So where do I mark this album? You know, the Scorpions, if I was looking at it, you know, the next year they do the Worldwide Live album, and the Worldwide Live album's a celebration really of the Matthias era. It's got all the tracks, you know, the classics from Love Drive, Animal Maxis and Blackout, and this album. It's a popular live album, it's a hugely successful tour, they do that video. So that 10-year period from Entranced, fruit of that, is really, you know, it's that golden period of the Scorpions where they do their classic albums, the Uli era, Tokyo Tapes, into the Matthias era. After this, they will tail off, although they'll have huge success with the Crazy World album. And they will, you know, their legacies, they will dine out on those eras with what, and, you know, a few tracks of whatever new release they've got out. And the Love at First Sting album will always play a big part in those concerts. When I first saw them live after a long period, the second time I saw them, which was supporting Jesus Priest, they opened with Bad Boys Running Wild, or was it Coming Home? Then you got Bad Boys Running Wild. They did Rock You Like a Hurricane. They did Big City Nights. They did Still Loving You, I think. I mean, these made up a big part of the set list. So this has got great tracks. It's just that tail off and a slightly more commercial thing just stops it achieving full classic status for me. But obviously, Bad Boys Run On, Right Like a Hurricane, Coming Home, Big City Nights, Still Loving You, 5 great tracks there. I really like I'm Leaving You. Although others might disagree with that. You know, on a good day, the filler tracks, yeah, I give them 6 out of 10. That would be giving us a mark of 78 out of 90. If you convert that to an 8.5 out of 10 on a bad day, I would probably be giving this, you know, sort of 7 out of 10. So splitting the difference between that, I feel it's a 7.5 to an 8 out of 10. It probably is an 8 out of 10, but it's not as good as an 8 out of 10 as some other 8 out of 10 albums. You know, you can have another 8 out of 10 album where it's got just great tracks and there's just two kind of duffers. You know, one duffer and an okay track. You know, this has great tracks. It's just got those kind of more filler tracks, you know, that aren't as exciting. So that's my take on this. There's not really much more to say about it. German Helmut Newton, a famous photographer, did an album cover which was considered too risque, and Walmart complained. So if you remember, the inner sleeve had that great shot of the Scorpions and Leather walking towards the camera where they just... I mean, you know, if you're talking about a band ready to go to the next level of success and making a statement, they look fucking mega. I mean, the Scorpions don't look cool in a way, but they do on this shot. And that became the front cover for the alternate clean cover. I mean, yeah, you look at the cover, it's just a kind of a sexy sort of pose of love. I don't, yeah, it's kind of objectifying a woman more, but I don't think it's unclassy. Obviously, some of the lyrics on this album, like Right Like a Hurricane, you know, the bitch is hungry, she needs to feed. Is that one of the lyrics? Yeah. You know, it's all of its time. I think, yeah, so Love at First Sting is 40 years old today. You know, part of that era of when metal, hard rock got really big. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little review. Remember to share and subscribe if you like these reviews, and I'll see you again. Thank you very much. Bye now.